All right, everybody, welcome to episode number 67 of Sports Cards Live. 67, here it is. All right, before we get into tonight's episode, I want to thank last Saturday's guest, Ken Reed from Sportsnet, who was an awesome guest. He had just released his new book called One to Remember. I have it right here. I read it. It's a page turner. I recommend it. Some great stories in there. Check that out. I also want to thank last Wednesday's guest, Brian Gray. We talked about, state of the market. We talked about the PSA acquisition, among many other things. So check that one out too. This Wednesday, no episode. I will be appearing on the virtual holiday sports card conference that is put on by Sports Card Investor and eBay. So check that out. That'll be streaming live on the Sports Card Investor YouTube channel. Next Saturday, my guest will be Michael Hodges from St. Louis Sports and the Clubhouse. All right, I want to welcome any new viewers, any new listeners. Welcome to Sports Cards Live. We're closing in on 1,600 subscribers on YouTube, and the podcast listener count is growing every day. So thank you to everyone who's watching. If you've not yet subscribed to the channel, please go ahead and do so. I'd greatly appreciate that. I want to shout out the Big Three Sports Cards. If you are not yet following these guys on Instagram, there's their handle on the bottom, at the Big Three Hockey. Give them a follow. Great guys. Love what they're doing in the hobby. Check them out, and I thank them for their support. As always, your comments and questions are in play tonight, so do not be shy. Feel free to bring your questions for Joe and Travis. We would love to have them throughout the evening. So again, bring them, and we will be doing Card of the Day at the end of the episode. All right, tonight's guest made his NHL debut for the Pittsburgh Penguins in 1968. He also played for the Buffalo Sabres, the Detroit Red Wings, before winning championships with Bobby Orr for the Winnipeg Jets in the World Hockey Association. In the late 80s, he and son Travis opened Joe Daley Sports Cards in Winnipeg, and they are still open and operating. Pretty awesome. From Winnipeg, Canada, one of my original LCS owners, Joe and Travis Daley. Gentlemen, welcome to the show. How are you doing tonight?
Hey, Jeremy, thanks for having us, and we're doing fine. The weather out here is not winterish like. We can pretty much stand outside in our T-shirt and not freeze to death. So, yeah, we're pretty happy as far as the weather goes, and of course, our COVID lockdown isn't helping, but we're making the best of a bad situation.
Good to hear, Joe. I'm glad to hear it. It's great to see you. I mean, well, I'll be honest. We hung out the other night. It was nice to see you. It was that last night. It was great to see you then, too. But it's great to have you here. Travis, I want to hear from you. How are you doing tonight, buddy?
Fantastic.
Good. Man of many words. I love it. I love it. So, okay, before we get into the episode tonight, I do have a message to pass along to you. I had Ken Reed on the show a week ago today, and at the end of the episode, he mentioned, Joe, that you were the first person he called when he started writing his books. And I said, well, I'm having him on the show next week. I'll say hi for you. So he sends his regards. I wanted to share that with you tonight.
Thank you.
Yeah, for sure. Nice guy. Great guy. So, all right, I used to do this on these episodes where I'd spend the beginning kind of explaining to the viewers how I know the guest, and I kind of got away from that for a while, but it's important here tonight with you guys because I know you guys. I've known you guys for what feels like my whole life. So obviously you're in Winnipeg, you've had Joe Daley Sports Cards in Winnipeg, and now you've changed it to Joe Daley Sports and Framing. You've branched out, you've found ways to keep the business going during what has been, there's been ups and downs over the years, so commend you for that. But just so people understand, like I grew up in Winnipeg and I was going to card shops in the mid to late 80s, and Joe Daley Sports Cards was one that, of course, everybody was going to. So, Joe, I remember coming into the shop every Saturday, hanging out for several hours at a time, looking in the showcases, saving up my money so that I could come back next week and, kind of eyeing out what I'd want for the next week when I would save up some money and come back. But, I've known you, like, we've known each other since 88, 87, 88, somewhere in there. Like, it's 30 years already.
It is a long time. Time goes by rather quickly, especially when you're at my age. But, yeah, those days were something else. I can remember a Saturday morning where the lineup would be outside waiting for us to open up. And, of course, we went through that great period of time when sports cards were the thing, and then we went into bit of a tailspin, and certainly when the Jets left, it hurt us. But yeah, the hobby has been a lot of fun for us, and I always say you're a customer the first time and a friend the second, and it's quite obvious by our relationship that we have made a lot of friends in the industry, and certainly you're proof of it.
Yeah, no, for sure. So couple stories that I remember from the good old days. So the first one was you had in the store on St. James across from Polo Park Shopping Center, you had your showcase under the cash register that had some a few cards in it. It was, the see-through glass top. And you had 2 Bobby Hull rookie cards that sat in there for quite some time. And I remember coming in and just ogling over them and like looking at them and saying, I don't know, I think I want to buy one. I don't know which one. I was working a part-time job. I was in high school saving my money. I eventually bought one of them from you. And that was like the biggest card I'd ever, I think I paid you $800 for this card in like 1989. I'm sure people watching right now can remember those 2 Bobby Hulls sitting in your store. And I remember the day I bought one. It was like a huge day. It was the most I'd ever spent on a card. That we're talking 1988, 89. Again, it's a while ago, But that's a story I'll never forget. I had that card for many years. I actually had it graded in 2008, and it came back at PSA 5. I'm not too pleased because I later upgraded that card and I sold the 5, and I kind of wish I had it because I would have great sentimental value for that card because of the story behind it, buying it from you and all that. So that's the first story. The second story, Travis, this is hilarious because I remember, you were working in the store with your dad, and I remember coming in one day and you had a Jose Canseco rookie card in the showcase. I really wanted this Jose Canseco card. I forget the price, $100, $125, $150, something like that. Pre-grading, of course. So I had just gotten maybe a new car stereo, and we made a trade, Travis. I traded you my portable CD player that it was the kind that you would like put Velcro on and put it on the dash of your car, and you'd stick the power outlet in the cigarette lighter. And then it also had another cord with like this fake cassette tape that you'd put in your cassette tape player in the car's dashboard. And that's how you would listen to CDs in like probably, I don't know, 88, 89, 90, somewhere back then. Do you remember that trade?
I do. And I don't know whether I ever told you, but somebody broke into my truck shortly after the trade, and that's all they took from it. So it didn't last long. I'm guessing the Canseco lasted longer than your CD player did.
It probably did. I think I ended up getting that card graded too, and I have one right now. It could still be the same one, but that was pretty funny. I don't know how many people traded away, your car CD player for a Jose Canseco rookie back in the late 80s. I may have been the only one, and you were the only one on the other side of that kind of trade, but that was fun. And the last thing I remember, Joe, and I don't know that you'll remember this, but again, I certainly do. So in 1990, I took off to Australia for about 10 months. Right out of high school. And let's keep in mind, this is before cell phones. This is before email. And I would write letters home to my parents, to my siblings, to my cousins, and to Joe Daley. That's who got letters from me from Australia. I sent a letter or 2 straight to the store. So that just, goes to show like how we were friends, still are. And, I come to Winnipeg now for family events and whatever I need to get there for every so often. I, of course, still have family there. And every time I do, I come by and say hello. And it's always sort of a highlight to come and see what you got in the showcases. And I end up usually picking up a card or 2. So yeah, that's our history for everybody watching. That's why this is a special episode for me. So I'm glad to have you guys. So before we get into some topics, so we're going to talk about the shop, the hobby, your playing days, highlights, all that kind of stuff, Joe. We're going to welcome the people to the show that we have with us. We got some comments that have poured in. So let's say hello to everybody. We got Rondell. Rondell says, hello to everyone. Jeremy will be strapping on the skates again tonight, and Joe has the net well defended. Let's have a great show. Thank you, Rondell. Tiger in the house. A time well spent is time with Jeremy and Sports Cards Live. Thank you, Tiger. Charles says, welcome to the show, guys. This is going to be amazing. Paul C., welcome to you. Terry, good evening, everyone. Oh, good to hear you got the cards, Terry. Glad to hear it. Thank you for letting me know. Hat Trick Heroes, Jeremy, Joe, Travis, woo, Manitoba Roots in the house. Yes, we are. Chris West is there. Good evening to you. Matt Chang, hello to you. Dennis Lescombe, good evening, and back again for a great show. Happy to have you. Joe Perot, all hail LCS folks. Their commitment providing us with a hub of collecting, especially in the old days, in the long ago times before the internet. Yeah, these guys are still going strong. Like I said earlier, 30-something years now, guys. Like, what year did you open, Joe? I don't remember.
Well, we opened a small shop. Actually, bought an existing. I won't call it a card shop because it was a variety of things, but we bought it, and before we moved over onto St. James Street there. So we were 24 years on St. James Street, and 8 years where we are now, and probably about 8 or 10 months when we got started. So, it's been a long haul, but it's been a lot of fun.
Yeah. So, yeah, you guys have you've been through the ups and the downs, and we're going to get to that. I want to say hello to a few more people, and then we will get into some more stuff there. Chris West says that trade worked out well, Jeremy. They're likely both worth the same today. Very true, Chris. Very true. Tiger says, oh, yeah, I had one of those portable CD players with a tape deck, connect to the car stereo. We've come a long way. Yes, we have. Those were the days, Trav. You'll remember. I mean, getting your car broken into was a regular occurrence, and what they were going for was your car stereo. That's what they wanted, because no one left valuables in the car. If you did, well, you maybe deserve to have it stolen, but people were going for car. Those were the days when you would take the faceplate off the dash with you. Remember that? I mean, what happened to those days? Rob Demare, welcome to the show. This is a great moment for Joe and Trav to share together. Congrats, guys. Awesome. LP hockey cards. It's Luck from Winnipeg. Luke from Winnipeg in the house. Good evening, Luke. Hattrick says, man, I'm glad to see this episode live. Joe and Travis are awesome. LCS in Winnipeg, if you didn't already know. And yeah, I mean, obviously, let's take this opportunity to say, anyone watching, if you're ever in Winnipeg, if you live in Winnipeg, but if you ever get to Winnipeg, you got to go visit these guys. Joe, you'll see tonight. He loves to talk, loves to make friends, loves to talk about the hobby, hockey, everything like that. Bobby Burrell says, hey, Jeremy, really looking forward to hearing some great stories from Joe and Travis. Welcome to the show, Bobby. Colin Murray, good evening to you. The Discman was popular, says Terry. Yes, it was. The Discman was popular back in the day. Remember those yellow Sony Discmans? I remember those. Okay, guys. So, Joe, I wanted to know, you played in the NHL, you played in the WHA, the NHL, and then you went into the sports card business. Tell us, how did you get into the sports card business in the first place?
Well, one weekend, sitting at home and talking with Travis, and he was about 19 years old, I guess, and he said, Dad, why don't we find something that we can grow with? And, we always talked about, whether we had the ability or the wherewithal to get into business of some sort and kind of strive along on our own. And so I said, yeah, well, let's see what we can do. We picked up the weekend paper, and a fella had a little shop for sale. He had some sports cards. He had the beer signs that you would put in a man cave today, the neon signs. And he had some candy that he was bringing up from the States that wasn't necessarily readily available in Winnipeg. And so he had a haberdashery of sorts. And so we went and had a look at it, and next thing I know, we bought it. And so we were plodding along in this location, which was quite a ways away from where we ended up over on St. James, where the arena and the stadium were. And how we ended up there was Travis said, Dad, we got to find a better location than where we got started with. And so he went off, and he came back one day and he said, I think I found the perfect location. And I said, cool. He said, yeah, but they want us to sign a 3-year lease. And I swallowed hard, and his mom said, you got to give the kid a chance. So away we went and opened up over on St. James Street there in Winnipeg. And the first year or so was pretty tough. I was going into my pocket to help pay the rent, and then all of a sudden the boom hit. So I said, well, I guess, our good fortune is that this thing is taking off a little bit. And the next thing you know, the stores were opening up like, we called it like mushrooms growing. Every corner in Winnipeg had a shop opening up. And of course, there was a few that were established, so to speak, that had been around, like ABD Cards was around. They were the one that I think everybody went to because it wasn't a popular thing for certainly young adults. It was okay for the kids to brag about the sports cards they had, but it seemed to be more leaning towards that than saying, guys weren't going to work bragging about the Bobby Orr card they had in their safety deposit box. So I think we were fortunate. And then, of course, wherever the boom came from, the explosion hit in the early 90s there, and it was our good fortune to be in business and established at that time. And of course, we all know what happened during that time period. And so that's basically how we got started.
All right. Yeah. Makes sense. And I mean, like I said before, you've been through a lot. You've been through the ups, the downs. So let's talk a little bit. And I remember, the early 90s, like you said, shops were popping up like mushrooms. I was one of them. We opened up a shop in 91 in Winnipeg in the South End, and we were around for about 2.5, 3 years. So, I remember that so well. Shops everywhere, there was no real price shopping. Everyone was selling the same thing at the same prices. It was really, at that point, it was just convenience, more than destination, I think. And boy, how that certainly has changed. Let's talk a little bit about the Jets. So the Winnipeg Jets were obviously the professional team in town, the big hockey team, NHL team. 1996 rolls around and they moved down to Phoenix, Arizona, or Glendale, Arizona. How did that impact the business? How did that impact the hobby and the business for you guys and the other shops in Winnipeg?
Well, it certainly initially, we didn't feel it initially, but as time went on, people got, they were down because we lost our franchise, and we noticed, kids were drifting away and getting into some of the other cards, such as the Pokemon stuff, and that type of stuff was taking on its own little life, and I even know that for a fact that people stopped watching hockey because we had lost our team. So when you stop having that type of interest, it certainly blends its way into your lifestyle, and people drifted away from the cards. And so it really impacted us a lot. And, there was days that I wasn't sure that it was going to be worth my while to hang on and continue. And for whatever reason, I hung in there, and, Travis had gone on to other things and ended up down in Phoenix for 6 years, believe it or not. I think he tried to encourage me to hang on, and he was always giving me more information than advice, but try this, Dad, try that, Dad. And so it was tough. I mean, I took on a Ticketmaster outlet, so that I thought it would be, driving some people to the store, but I found out in the long run that was interfering, because people wanted to come in and browse around and talk about cards, and I was having to pay quite a close attention to selling concert tickets. So in the end, I realized I had probably made a mistake taking that on. But certainly when the Jets came back, that was a big boost, because I had people coming in the store telling me that they had actually stopped watching hockey and they lost interest in it. And I think everybody was just down, and certainly the card industry in our city was down. And, everybody thought the hobby shops are going to fade away. And so thankfully and luckily I hung in, and then Travis decided to come back to Winnipeg. He had a daughter, and I think he realized he was a long way away from family support. And anyways, he came back, and the team was here, and business was starting to perk up again. And he had always had a love for the industry, and said, Dad, I think I'd like to come back in. And I said, well, you're the one that's going to make it work. And he has. So, yeah, we were very fortunate to hang in, and now we're reaping the rewards and benefit of being around.
So, Travis, when the Jets left in '96, were you in Winnipeg at that time, or had you already gone to Phoenix?
No, I was here still. Yeah, I didn't leave here until 2000.
Okay, so I'm just a little curious from my own, from being from Winnipeg, my own interest is when the Jets left, and I mean, people still came in the shop, maybe not as often, but you still had people come in. Did Winnipeg Jets fans start cheering for other teams? Like, I remember when they left, I was still there, and here we are, no team. So some people started cheering for the Montreal Canadiens, the Maple Leafs, the Oilers, the Flames, the Canucks. I kind of couldn't find a team I loved. I think for a while, at one point I had to go do some work in Ottawa. I went to a game there, bought a jersey, called myself an Ottawa Senators fan. That lasted about 2 weeks. Just, my heart wasn't in it. Where did Winnipeg hockey Joe, you said that people just stopped watching, but I have to think some people didn't give it up altogether. So the people that didn't give it up altogether, do either of you remember, like, were they cheering for other teams? Were they cheering for players? Or was it just like hockey's dead and we're not interested anymore?
It was a bit of both. Like, I think you said players. There were some people that strictly went and said, okay, I'm going to cheer for the best player in the game, whoever it was. I think gradually, wasn't right away. People didn't just say, okay, I'm not a Jet fan anymore, I'm going to cheer for so-and-so. I don't think anybody followed them to the Phoenix and became Phoenix fans. I think a lot, picked another Canadian team, picked the team with the best player. Even today, we still get people coming in today saying, Chicago's my team. I'll cheer for the Jets now, but I cheered for Chicago for 15 years while the Jets were gone. So they're still Chicago fans or whatever the team is. So we still hear it now, how they had to find another team to cheer for. But I do think it took a while. It wasn't like overnight where the team left and they decided, okay, I'm going to pick another team. They kind of almost grew into it.
I think the biggest problem. Sorry, Joe, go ahead.
Yeah, I was just going to say, of course, in the West here, if depending on the age of the person, but you go back a number of years to the original six, and so you always had Leaf fans and still do today. You always had Montreal Canadian fans, and you still do today. So, and then there's those that grew up. Their dad was a Bruin fan, and so they grew up a Bruin fan, and so on. So, those traditions carry on, and like Travis said, they carry on into today, where if the Jets are playing their favorite team, it's a toss-up who they really want to win. But yeah, for sure, and I think that's what happened was that, and then of course when we got the Moose here, which was in the International League before they went into the American League, and then there was a connection between them. And they became a farm team for Vancouver. Vancouver sent us a few players here. So there's the odd person that said, let's hope Vancouver does well, or at least there was a connection between maybe seeing that kid play here in Winnipeg and then he was going up to the Vancouver Canucks. So, but yeah, like Travis says, still today, I mean, you've got a variety of teams, you've got a variety of fans, and I guess that's the strength of the hobby, though, is that, if all I could sell in Winnipeg was Jets cards, I'd soon run out of them. And other than a few of the stars we have today, and back in the 80s, we had a couple, certainly Dale Howardchuk and then Solani. But when you think about it, I mean, the power brokers of the world are looking for the Crosbys and Ovechkins and, that type of thing. So, yeah, I mean, it's always nice to have the guy come in and say, I'm looking for this or that. And then, of course, you have the generational thing where people are coming in and the dad wants to look back at the old parkies and the young guys into the counter looking for the newest, coolest card that come out of the pack yesterday. So, yeah, it's different.
So, I mean, when I was known for being a Jets fan, just from my friends and family, even hobby friends and that. And then people often ask me, so when the Jets went down and became the Phoenix Coyotes, now the Arizona Coyotes, did you become a fan of the Coyotes? And I think the common theme amongst Winnipeggers was, hard no. Most people didn't. And I think the reason was, for me anyway, was because just before they left, the Jets apparently had to trade away one of their big players. They had two big players, Teemu Selanne and Keith Tkachuk. And the management decided to trade away Teemu Selanne to the Anaheim Mighty Ducks for Chad Kilger and Oleg Tverdovsky, who amounted to nothing, instead of trading away Keith Tkachuk because Keith was American. So you send the team down to the States, it maybe makes more sense to have the American guy, as the leader. But Teemu was the more popular guy, the more just the nicer guy. And I think a lot of Winnipeggers, myself included, cried the day Teemu was traded. And it was very easy to not follow the Jets in their new home in Arizona. That's at least my story. Was that the sentiment that you guys kind of heard mostly, or were there other reasons people didn't follow the Jets down to Arizona?
I don't know whether, the term bitter, we were bitter, we lost the team, whether the fans said, you know what, our franchise going down there, that's not our franchise anymore, and and like you say, losing Teemu, I think that was a sentimental blow, because you're right, everybody loved him, and he loved Winnipeg, and obviously they did it for the reasons you said. The ownership group thought that it would be better to have an American-born player on a team going south, and so that's the reason that that move was made. But it's certainly in the eyes of Winnipeggers. I don't know whether if they would have went over. Let's just say they would have went to Minneapolis or just over the border, where a guy can jump in his car with his family and drive a few hours and still see them play. Whether that would have been a huge difference, or because they went so far away. And yet, now today, I mean, when our Jets are playing in Phoenix, I mean, there's probably hundreds of fans in the Phoenix arena when they can go, are there. And so, it's, and nobody's saying, oh yeah, that's our old team, because, Shane Doan was the last thread that had any connection to Winnipeg, and God bless him, great hockey player and a great person, but only spent a matter of months in Winnipeg before the team was gone. So there was really no real tie into even Shane Doan. So after that, I mean, there wasn't much for the, and I've talked to many fans over the years, and they're even bitter that they've got a few of the banners or whatever for certain guys hanging in the Phoenix arena. Most people say the people down there don't even know who those people are that they're representing. So the connection has been poor.
Yeah. I think there's some sentiment or some feeling that it was almost like they stole our team, and we couldn't cheer for somebody that stole our team. So
yeah, that was my all those sentiments where I think we all felt a little bit of each of those. I wanted to touch on when you said earlier, Joe, about the original six, that people, their dads would be Bruins fans, Leaf fans. I remember going to games in the old barn in Winnipeg, and whenever the Leafs or the Habs were in town, so whenever the Toronto Maple Leafs or the Montreal Canadiens were in town, there were as many, if not more, people cheering for those teams than the Winnipeg Jets. Now, across Canada, everybody, it's almost kind of a joke. We say that, everyone hates the Leafs, except for people in Toronto, right? And I think a part of that was because we would go to see games for our home team, and there'd be more people cheering for the other team. And it was so we had to cheer louder. We had to try harder to be heard, to drown out the Leaf fans or the Habs fans. And I wonder if that went on in other cities. It must have. And I wonder if that's part of the reason why so many hockey fans outside of Toronto and Ontario kind of have that we hate the Leafs sort of sentiment. It's all in fun. It's all in good sportsmanship, really. But those are my memories. I used to get so mad at the fans of the other team coming into our building and cheering for the opposition. It used to get under my skin. And nowadays, I'm in Calgary. I go to the odd Flames game, and you'll always see jerseys from the other teams, whether it's Tampa Bay or Dallas or Anaheim. It doesn't matter. You can be the furthest south, and you're going to have fans in our building. But at least, we're 99.99% wearing Flames jerseys, so they don't really stand a chance of drowning us out. But back in the day, in those mid-'80s, we used to have to battle the fans of those other original 6 teams, their fans, just to be heard. So
that still happens today, really. And that's, Travis and his wife go to many games, and
I won't go to the Leafs games anymore. There's too many Leafs fans at it. I can't stand them.
Yeah, and it's funny.
We still battle the same problem here.
Oh, you do? Okay. And, I've got lots of friends that are Leafs fans. So, I say it's all in good, sports fanmanship, I guess. We're just having fun. But, okay, I want to just, a couple more people have joined us since we last said hello. So Jay Pogs, want to say hello to you. Good evening. Three Bros Collection. Good to see you. Royals says, went to Winnipeg a year ago. Hit up one of the shops. Look forward to returning and going to Joe's. I hope you do, Royals. That'd be great. Brent Turman, happy to support my LCS here. There you go. Nice to hear, Brent. Rob Demare says, like father, like son. So here's a funny story. I called these guys up at the shop a couple of weeks ago. Just, we already knew we were doing this, but just to make sure that they remembered and for some planning. Hey, Joe. No, it's Travis. Oh, are you sure? Like, I didn't believe you because you guys sound the exact same. You look alike. You sound the exact same. Even when we were talking on the phone, Travis, I was like, I don't know if I believe you. This could just as easily be Joe. You guys are, it's easy to look at you and tell you apart when you're sitting beside each other. But on the phone, you are one voice. I got to tell you. Scott, good evening to you. Rob says, Phoenix got our team and the chemistry became different. Yeah, everything became different when they went down there. Must have. LP says, I still like the Coyotes. A little blast from the past as they have some guys I like. It's nice that they do, right? They are still the old Jets franchise. The new Jets franchise were the expansion Atlanta Thrashers. So there's no real connection between the old Jets and the new Jets, except for the name, which I was super happy when they came back and Chipman and company decided to call them the Jets. It made it easier for me to become a fan again. Paul Cashman says, I feel for the Winnipeg fans. For much of the 90s, the Oilers were threatening to move. Somehow it didn't happen, which I'm sure they're happy about. Peter says, when they talk about Arizona owning the rookie scoring record, I feel a little ill for Teemu Selanne's 50 having the 76 goals which was funny because Teemu Selanne, I was at the game where he beat Mike Bossy's rookie goal scoring record of 53 goals with his 54th. I think it was against the Quebec Nordiques, who are now the Colorado Avalanche. But he ended up going on and scoring over 20 more goals for 76 in his rookie season and still didn't win the goal scoring record for the year. He tied with Alexander McGillney.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
No one had 77. Two guys had 76. Rob Demare was saying, good point, Travis. I forget what that was about, but thank you, Rob. He goes on to say, my buddy who did security said that they beefed up their security 3 times. This is at the old arena when an original 6 team came to town. I don't doubt it. Those were rough days. Thank you, Canner Collect says, great start to the show. Go Red Wings. Yeah, Joe played for the Red Wings. Royal says, did the Jets have to get approval from the Coyotes to take the Jets name again? Great question, Royals. Do either of you have the answer to that?
As far as I know, and I don't know 100% for sure, but we have heard that when a team leaves or folds, the name and logos revert to the NHL. So as far as we know, the current team owns them all. They kind of came with it from the NHL, but I can't say that 100% for sure.
Okay. Yeah, that sounds about right. If anyone out there knows anything better, please feel free to share it with us. Jeff McMahon says, how did Mr. Daley like playing in Detroit, especially playing at the old Olympia?
Well, when I got traded from Buffalo to Detroit, I was pretty excited, even though I didn't want to leave Buffalo. I was only in Buffalo the very first year of their existence, and I felt like, there was a lot of growth to happen there, and I was hoping that I could be part of it. And but Punch made a deal and got Don Luce and Mike Robitaille for me, and I went back to Detroit, which was essentially the organization I grew up in. I played junior hockey in Weyburn, which was a Detroit-sponsored junior team, and then, of course, in the Central League in Memphis, and then Pittsburgh in the American League before expansion. And so I had a lot of love for the Detroit organization, and got off to a great start that season in '71 too. And but the second half of the year was a disaster for me, and I guess it was my good fortune that at the end of that season there was the whispers of the World Hockey starting up, and of course I had been approached privately by a Winnipeg connection, trying to find out whether I had any interest in coming home to play, and because of my ill feelings toward the Detroit organization and the way things played out that year, I certainly welcomed the opportunity. I thought it was going to be good that I could get back to my hometown, give the kids some roots that they could form some friendships with the kids in school and grow up a little bit there. But I liked playing everywhere I played, to be honest with you. There wasn't a place that I didn't like playing. I mean, that's the nature of an athlete is you play. I always say I'd play in Timbuktu if I had to. So it was never a case of me not enjoying my time wherever I went. It was just that when you're trying to establish yourself as a player and get your career going on the right track, you need some guidance. And I don't want to say I didn't get that guidance that I needed, but I think the maturity took place with me in my time in Winnipeg. You mature as a person, you mature as an athlete. So maybe part of the problems that I had in some of the places I played was created by myself. And so I'm man enough to say that it wasn't all on management all the time. But, I think that obviously I played without a doubt the best of my career right here at home. And but no, I liked playing in Detroit. I liked the teammates I had. I mean, Marcel Dion was a rookie that year, and Alex Delvecchio was still around. Red Berenson and Gary Bergman was still there. Mickey Redmond. So I had a lot of fun in Detroit. They were all great guys, and as they were in every organization I played in. So it was never about the city. It was never about the fans. And I, when you're not playing well, you better be able to take the barrage of boos that are going to come down on you. And so that happened in places that you don't like to get booed in your home rink. But I think it's fans being fans. So you got to be able to take it.
And I mean, let's face it, later on in the mid 70s through the late 70s, there were the opposite of boos happening in the Winnipeg arena when you along with the rest of the Jets were winning Avco Cup championships. So they got pretty excited to see it towards later on, right?
Oh, for sure. I mean, I always say the success of a goaltender is predicated by the 18 or 20 guys that are playing in front of them. And to use a term that was presented by one of the greatest goalies of all time with Glenn Hall. A young fella said to him, "Glenn, I'd like to know how you become a better goaltender." And Glenn says, "Get better defense."
Yeah, for sure. Makes sense. All right, a couple more comments, and then we'll dive into more stuff about the time with the Jets. Dave Kaplan, who will be joining me on After Hours later tonight, was also at the game when Timu broke Bossy's record. I also have my ticket stub from that game autographed, Dave. That's kind of cool. Chris West says, "I don't mind the original 6 teams. It's the fans that are annoying and that are hated." Chris, you're popular tonight. These guys like your comments. Peter Chow says, "I thought Shankro owned the rights to the name." Well, Shankro sold the team. So if he sold the team, I got to think the name would have gone with the team. No, but who knows? We'd be speculating. LP says, will Joe be getting any more Series 1 hobby from this year?
We still have some.
There you go. Click and collect sort of thing. Curbside pickup, guys. Give them a call. Go buy some hockey cards from these guys. Says Mr. Daley should tell the story of the game jersey stolen from his store. What's that all about, Joe?
Well, yeah, shortly, I guess it would have been shortly. A little while after we opened up there, we thought we should bring in a few pieces of memorabilia into the store, and so we brought in a jersey that was the last one I wore as a Jet. We had that and an All-Star jersey hanging on the wall, and unfortunately for ourselves and a few other businesses that were in the complex where we were, got broken into, and the one item that went missing was my jersey. Well, to make a long story short, I thought that was gone forever. And a couple of years ago, a close friend of ours who started off as a customer and has become a close friend, as I always say, has a nice collection. And a fella comes over one day and says, "You got anything new?" And he says, "Well, come on down and have a look." And there was a picture of myself and Gilbert Perreault on the wall when I was with Buffalo. And he says, "Is that Joe Daley?" And he says, "Yeah, why?" He says, "I got a jersey of his at home. I wonder if he'd autograph it." He said, "Well, go get it. I'll take it to him. I know Joe well." Well, the guy went home and got the jersey and brought it in to his home. He said, "Man, that's Joe's game-worn jersey." So our friend gets hold of Travis, and he says, "Travis, I think I might have a jersey of your dad's." Travis says, "Is there a spot on the sleeve?" And he looks and he says, "Yes." He says, "That's the one that was stolen out of our store. Over 20 years later, we get it back."
Where did the guy get it from?
He apparently, something along the lines of his sister was dating a guy that was less than stellar. And he knew this guy liked hockey, and he said, "You want this jersey?" He gave him the jersey, like I think he said about 22 years ago. He gave it to him, and he's had it in his closet ever since.
Oh, that's crazy. Well, I'm glad you got it back. That must have been a nice feeling to get that jersey back.
Unbelievable. I mean, I thought for sure if anybody had it, I would never see it, and most likely it's probably torn to shreds. So, yeah, that was kind of
cool.
A kind of cool situation for sure.
For sure. Okay, we're getting some questions about your playing days, that kind of thing. So let's talk a bit about that stuff, Joe. I mean, I wanted to know what it was. Bobby Orr, obviously one of the greatest to play the game, changed the game. You played in his era. You stared down Bobby Orr. You told me the story the other day of one game. I asked you, I said, did Bobby Orr ever score against you? I'll ask you again right now. Joe, did Bobby Orr ever score against you?
Of course, I think every player I played against probably scored a goal sooner or later against me. But regardless, no, I haven't got a storied NHL career, but I'd like to think that anybody that gets to the National Hockey League has to have something going for them. And the funniest thing is, though, in the old Boston Garden there, that little wee bandbox that the Boston played in, a shot from center ice was a difficult one to handle because the rink was so small. But anyways, one night I was with Buffalo at the time. We went into Boston, and Punch says, "You're playing tonight, Joe." That's fine. I love playing in Boston. I just enjoyed the challenge. And as the game went on, I was getting worn out. The shots were 42-12 after two periods, and it was 2-2. So we're going into the third period, and I'm thinking, we got a chance to get a point in the Boston Garden. So anyways, the period starts off, and Phil Esposito scores a goal on an offside play that was allowed. They proceeded to get 30 more shots in the third period, so they ended up with 72 shots. Bobby Orr scored in the first period on a breakaway. Now you're going to say, how the heck does a defenseman score on a breakaway? But anybody that had the chance to watch Bobby Orr play can understand. So that night he had 15 shots. He scored on the first one and not again. So yes, I have many fond memories of Bobby, and one of the most prized possessions that I have. People say, you must have oodles of stuff. Well, really, I don't have oodles of stuff. But 1980, we played a benefit game in Winnipeg when Wayne Gretzky came to play in it and Bobby Orr came to play in it. The only game that Orr and Gretzky were ever on the ice together. Ever. So a photographer that did pictures for the Winnipeg hockey team and everything took a picture of Bobby and Wayne and myself sitting in the dressing room together. I forgot all about it. One day he walks in, he says, Joe, he says, I got something you might like. And he hauls out this picture. And of course it's about 4x6, but it's the three of us. So I ended up getting it blown up, and I got 10 copies made. I got Wayne to sign it. And then Bobby was going to be in Thunder Bay for a charity event because of the Stalls that he represents, the Stall family. So the wife and I jump in the car. I said, we're going to see Bobby. I got to get this picture signed. So in my possession, I have a picture of Wayne, Bobby, and myself, and it's signed by all three of us. The only thing Bobby said to me, he said, I hope you'll never sell these. I said, no, they're for the family, and that's the way it stands.
That's amazing. The only game they were ever on the ice together, you were on the ice with them.
Yeah, it was a benefit game. If anybody remembers Billy Heindel, unfortunately, Billy went through some tough times and tried to take his life and failed, and ended up in a wheelchair. And Bobby had played with Billy in Oshawa, and so we had a benefit game, and Wayne came in, and a lot of the guys from hockey came in. Gumper was here, and that was the only game ever that Wayne and Bobby were on the ice together, and I've got a picture to prove it.
That's amazing.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, it's a neat story, and so getting back to my career with playing in the National Hockey League. I mean, I had the good fortune to, like I said, played with Marcel Dion as a rookie. The year I was in Buffalo, Joe Perreault was a rookie, and of course played with and against some of the greats of all time. So even though my career in the National Hockey League didn't span a great number of years, I have a lot of memories to go to my grave with, and things I cherish immensely, and certainly having played in all the old buildings that are non-existent anymore makes you feel like an old man. But I have great memories of the Boston Garden, Maple Leaf Gardens, the Forum in Montreal, the Olympia in Detroit, and places like that. Madison Square Garden. Those are memories that are very, very precious to me, because I was a hockey fan my whole life, and so you sit at home on a Saturday night and you're watching a game and you're thinking, is there ever going to be a chance that I'll be playing in one of those buildings? And then you get to sit in those old dressing rooms and you're thinking, man, what a lot of great hockey players over the years sat in these dressing rooms, and then you're out on the ice, and the next thing you know, you're trying to stop John Beliveau or Davey Keon or Frank Mahovlich or Bobby Orr and Phil Esposito and Bobby Hull, and then you end up, playing with Bobby Hull. How bad is that?
Right. Terry wants to know, what was it like playing with and against Gordie Howe?
Well, unfortunately, in 71 too, that was the year that Gordie got that mushroom treatment, he called it, where he had the bad wrist, and so he did not play. And so my year in Detroit, I missed playing with Gordie, but certainly got a chance to play against him. And there's a lot of memories of that as well. I mean, Gordie was it's so hard to argue who was the best player of all time, but you got to put Gordy and Wayne and Bobby Orr and Bobby Hull. I didn't play against the Rockets, so I can't talk about him. But there's so many great players over the years. But Gordy was a guy that if he had to beat you, he would play the way he had to play to beat you. Most guys will,
Always play the same way.
They always play the same way. Whereas with Gordy, he, if he had to give you an elbow in the mouth, he'd give you an elbow in the mouth. If he had to score a goal, he'd score a goal. That was the way he played the game. But I had a lot of respect for him, even though there was an incident in Pittsburgh when he pulled a dirty trick on one of my defensemen, and I thought he had killed him, Bob Wojtowicz. But that was Gordy. I mean, Red Kelly coached me in Pittsburgh, and he always used to say, "Yeah, Gordy was a great guy. I played with Gordy, played against Gordy." He said, "You go in the corner." Gordy would say, "Red, how's the kids?" And before you could answer him, his elbow was in your mouth. So, that's the way Gordy was. I mean, and there's nothing wrong with playing the game to win, and he played the game to win, and that's why he was as great as he was.
Sounds a lot like Michael Jordan's competitiveness that we just witnessed in the documentary.
That's what makes the great athletes great athletes. I think, I always say to people, we sort of abuse the term great because that guy's great, this guy's great. No, there's a few people that are great in their field or in their sport, and then there's a lot of good ones. And, the thing that separates the great ones from the good ones is the way they play the game. And I would say Wayne Gretzky would have been just a very average hockey player, but every night he came to play. And that's the way the great ones established their careers. And if you watch The Last Dance about Michael there, I mean, all you had to do was tick him off and you weren't going to win the game. And we used to say that. There was a few guys that I played against over the years, and you'd sit in the dressing room and say, "Let him go up and down the wing. Don't wake him up." You hit him, and now all of a sudden you've got him in a game, and now you got competition. So, but the great athletes, they find a way to get themselves motivated every night. And I saw that in Wayne. Gordy was the same way, and all the Bobby Orr was the same way. All the great players. They don't take too many nights off. They don't take too many shifts off.
Okay. This is fascinating, Joe. Fascinating stuff. We're going to switch to Travis for a second. There is a question directly for you, Trav. So Rob Demare says, can you tell a favorite story that you were privy to being behind the scenes as a youngster? So, I mean, and at first when I saw Rob post the question, I was thinking maybe he meant, at the card shop. But I think what he means is, Travis, I mean, you're a youngster. Your dad's playing at the highest level of hockey. He's winning championships. What was that like for you? I mean, I think we all dreamt of, number one, playing in the NHL, or number two, having a father or a brother or a son, whoever, to actually play in the NHL or at the professional level. You had that. What was it like being a kid in Winnipeg, and your dad is one of the heroes in the city?
Well, I always said he was just dad to us. He just had a different job than your dad. And but I was fairly young. I think I was 12 when Dad finished. But I wouldn't say there was one particular story, but we had a lot of great memories. My brother and I both would go to practice, and we'd be on the ice with the players. And I always said the highlight for me was getting free soda and gum in the dressing room. So, just being around some of those guys, you realize, in fact, probably more as I became an adult and interacted with the same guys, how nice they were, how good they were to us when we were kids, how well they treated us. It was just a lot of fun. Like I said, for us, it was normal. It didn't, it's just, Dad went to the rink to do his job. Other dads went to the office to do their accountant job. But so he was just Dad. It didn't, it wasn't quote unquote anything special. He was still just Dad. And but it was sure a lot of fun growing up. That's for sure.
But was there ever a time when you realized that it was special?
Probably after he was done. In fact, we moved to Penticton for 4 years in BC. And when we came back, a friend of mine came to visit, and we were walking around the mall, and somebody asked Dad for an autograph, and they were kind of looking at him like, why are they doing that? And that's when you realize that maybe to some people, Dad is special, you know?
Yeah. Not just to you Rugrats hanging around the house. All right. Charles has a question for you, Joe. He says, you've played with some underrated stars like Lars-Erik Schuberg, Nick Libet, Les Binkley. And before I finish this question, guys, Charles is 14 years old, okay? And I'm not kidding. Les Binkley, and of course yourself. What player do you think was the hardest working guy you ever played with? Hardest working guy, Joe?
Whoa, boy. Let's put it this way. I played with a lot of guys that I thought were underrated, but their work ethic and work habits were the thing that allowed them to be National Hockey League or WHA players. And it's hard for me to just zero in on one person. I think if you look at most teams, look at the third and fourth line players and their habits and how they play the game and how they work at the game and their job. Those are generally the guys that will be I'll say the hardest workers other than the great players, because they have to every night, every practice, every day, they have to be the hardest worker to be on the team. Yeah. Generally, the guys on the first couple of lines, they're gifted with a certain amount of talent and skill. And yeah, they still have to work hard, but a lot of them get by because they are so skilled and so talented. Whereas that guy that's put out there to check and play 4 or 5 minutes a night, if he doesn't work his tail off every chance he gets, he won't be around, because those guys can be replaced quite easily. So when you're watching a game, if you're watching a guy on the third or fourth line, he's not working hard, I'll guarantee he won't be there the next week. So pay attention to how they go about their business. I played with a lot of guys that I thought, over the years, I even as a kid coming up, as a kid growing up, going through my junior career, I thought I played with a lot of good hockey players, and very, very few of them went on to have professional careers. Mind you, back then, there was no, my first contract, I'm going to be a millionaire. You either loved the game and wanted to pursue it, or you said, I'll stay home, I'll get a job, and I'll play beer hockey. Because there was no incentive to go on and be a pro athlete in the 60s or 50s or even early 70s, because the money wasn't that great. And so, you had to love the game. You had to love the sport you were in to want to pursue it. And I thought I played with a lot of good kids, a lot of good young fellas that they never went anywhere. Mind you, when in hockey there were 6 teams, and I remember my first training camp I went to. I was still eligible to play junior and did go back and play junior, but I went there. There was 10 pro goaltenders already, and there was only like 3 or 4 teams to play on. So you say, the odds are stacked up against me. So, the first year I went out of junior hockey, I ended up in Johnstown where Slapshot was made, and I played in Johnstown for 2 years. That was great for me. I'm a kid. It's a league where you got a mixture of talent, and hopefully I'm going to get better and learn something. Then you move on to the next league and the next league and the next league, and that's the way we went up the ladder. Not like today where you draft a kid out of the NHL and everybody's wondering, is he going to be in the lineup this year or maybe next year? Not too many guys. I remember 1971 too. Guy Lafleur sitting on the bench in Montreal. Not a bad hockey player, eh?
Not a bad one.
But he sat on the bench first.
These third, fourth, it's the unsung heroes who are often the hardest workers, then, sort of thing, right?
For sure. Yeah. The young fellow there that had the question, he knows. I mean, Les Binkley was a trainer for many, many years before he got a chance to be a National Hockey League goaltender. And Nick Libet was a good friend. I played with Nick Libet in the Central League in Memphis, and him and his wife were good friends of ours, and good hard worker. And Lars Derrick, to me, was he was one of the most talented and most the smartest defenseman that I ever played with. Just, I guess if there was a knock against him was his size. But boy, was he talented, and he knew the game inside and out. And that's why he ended up to be the captain of our team.
And he was one of the early Europeans to come over and play North American professional hockey. I mean, I remember I went to WHA games. The World Hockey Association was a competitive league in the 70s against the NHL, made their mark by Bobby Hull signing the first $1 million contract in professional hockey to play with the Winnipeg Jets. Just for people that may not know, who are in the audience, may not know what the WHA was. Didn't last too terribly long, but the Europeans came over. Anders Hedberg, Ulf Nielsen. I mean, these guys were playing with Bobby Hull. That was the hotline.
Well, I'll tell you, we had a stretch of about 4 years here in Winnipeg where we had a team that could compete anywhere, any place, anytime. And in fact, if you recollect, when Ulf and Anders ended up signing in New York 1 year before the demise of the WHA, Anders told me, and Anders Hedberg would never say anything out of character, out of text. And he says, Joe, I'm skating around the ice one day at practice in New York, and the guy said, you came to a pretty good team, eh? Anders said, you should have seen the one I left. True story.
I love it.
And that was New York thought they had a good team, and Anders says, you should have seen the one in Winnipeg.
Terry wants
for all those people that want to sort of discredit the league and say that it was, some people have suggested that it was a glorified American league. No better. They didn't view all the years and all the guys that came into it, and look at all the Hall of Famers that got their start in the league, and
Wayne Gretzky.
And I know that for Winnipeggers, they'll never forget the night we beat the Russian national team. We were the only club team in the history to beat their national team. So people said, did you ever regret leaving the National Hockey League? I said, not really. I accomplished a lot as a teammate here in Winnipeg. Got to see a number of places in the world. We played in Sweden, Finland, Czechoslovakia, played the Izvestia Cup in Russia, played against some of the best teams in the world, played with some of the best players in the world. I never regretted leaving the National Hockey League.
So, Joe, let's go to the next question on the screen. Terry Fortune wants to know who had the hardest shot that you ever had to face?
Well, it wasn't always the hardest shot that got by. It was who had the ability to put it in the right place all the time. So, I played with a guy that 99% of the viewers will never, ever know that this guy played in the National Hockey League, a kid by the name of Dougie Vollmer. I played with him in Detroit. He could shoot the puck so hard it was scary. And I don't know. I don't know what his stats are, but if he scored 5 goals in the National Hockey League, that would be about it. But I always said that, there was a fellow by the name of Norm Ferguson who played in the National Hockey League, played in the World Hockey. I played against him in the minor leagues. And I think I kept him in every league that he played in because he had the ability to score a goal on me no matter what. And
you kept him working.
Like I say, it wasn't always the guy that had the hardest shot, because back in the day there was only 2 or 3 guys that were could really fire the puck. And of course, going into each game, you were prepared for those guys, so you were on your toes when they had the puck and and especially when it was in a scoring area. It was always those guys that had that sneaky little shot that for some reason it was almost like a trick shot, and they always had the ability to fool you. So not always but then there was guys, and I'm sure you've heard the expression, had a heavy shot, and that's hard to explain to somebody. Alex Del Vecchio had a heavy shot. In other words, when you caught the puck, it was like you'd caught a bowling ball full of lead, because it hit you and thud. So there was a lot of different players. Obviously, Bobby Hull, when I first got to play against him, I mean, he'd come down the ice and he'd flick the first one at your head, because I played many years without a mask. And so now he's got you up on your toes, and the next one he'd come and he'd put some smoke on it, and it would be right along the ice. So, we were always playing a cat and mouse game with guys like him. And so it always wasn't the hardest shot, but there was a few guys over the years that could fire the puck.
Yeah, I'm sure there were. Okay, next question is from Trudeau97. Says, hi to you guys. Great to see you. What's the most valuable hockey item you've ever had come through the store? And then says, I'll see you curbside this week.
Well, Travis coined a phrase. He said, the most valuable thing we have in the store is the person that walks in the door. And that's the customer. And we've always felt that way. But not to make light of the question, we've had some neat stuff. Had a guy walk in one day with a super value bag full of baseball cards, and him and his brother-in-law came in. I said, can I help you? And he said, I want to finish a few sets here. And I said, do you want to finish them or do you want to sell them? He said, maybe I could sell them. Well, I open up the bag, look in, and sitting on the top of the pile is a 52 mantle. My heart started pounding.
90, 91.
Oh, my goodness. That was probably the most... that
was the most valuable card individually we've had.
Yeah.
And you ended up buying it.
Well, we ended up making a deal.
Three-way deal, actually.
A deal with him and another dealer in Winnipeg. And, we ended up selling the cards for him. And, Travis gave the guy a check after we were able to accumulate the money for him. And Travis thought he was going to die of a heart attack. He started frothing at the mouth in the store.
Couldn't believe what he was falling into.
Well, the day he walked in, I said, do you realize what you got in the bag? He said, probably a couple $1,000 worth of cards. I said, I'm glad you came to me. He said, I was told to.
That's nice.
Yeah, so I was glad we treated him fairly and properly, and God rest his soul. I know he's gone because his brother-in-law, before we even left St. James Street, came back to see me, and I think we had obviously acquired most of his cards. But getting back to him, I said to him, too bad you didn't have hockey from the same era. He said, I did. I said, what'd you do with it? He said, I gave it to a friend. I said, I hope he was a good one.
No doubt. Davey Snep says, would love to see that picture of the three of you, Wayne and Bobby. is that in the house somewhere?
No. Couple of the kids have got them, and one of the grandkids has got one, and I got the rest in the safe.
All right. Well, we won't see it tonight, but I want to see it next time I come to Winnipeg and come see you at the shop. AM just wants to quite simply say, hockey is life. Love it. Thank you, AM. And Dave Kaplan says, did you ever face Wayne Gretzky during Winnipeg's last season in the WHA? That was the year the Jets beat Gretzky and the Oilers in the Avco Cup finals.
Yes, I did. Yeah, I got to play against Wayne during his startup, actually, even when he got started in Indianapolis, so before he went to Edmonton. But, people have asked me many times, what did you think of the kid? And I said, well, I thought for sure some big defenseman's going to tattoo him one day against the boards, and he'll become one of those advertising pieces, because he was so thin and so small. You could see he had some skill. Obviously, he was 18 years old. But for anybody to predict that he was going to go on and have the career just by watching him in those early games, I think you'd have to really say that you stretched the imagination because, I would have never suggested that he was going to be able to do what he did. But I mean, towards that final year in Edmonton in the WHA, the year we beat them in the final, there were signs that this kid was a little bit better than the average guy, and obviously he proved that to be accurate. But so I got a chance to play against him, even though it was a very short period of time, and like I say, when he was in his call it infancy as a pro. But yeah.
All right. And Robert wants to know, is there a fight or a brawl that stood out above all others that you witnessed on the ice? Anything come to mind?
Well, I'll tell you, the most of that stuff took place when I was in Johnstown. So anybody that has seen the movie Slapshot, believe me, I lived it. That league was unbelievable. Some of the actions of some of the players that played in that league and some of the things that went on in games, unbelievable. So most of the brawls or vicious incidences took place when I was in we called it the East Coast League, and it was unbelievable. I mean, there was guys hitting each other over the head with sticks with no helmets on. I remember a player tried to spear one of my teammates in the eye, things like that. I mean, it was just disgusting when I think of it now today and the way the game was played. But, I mean, if you remember back in the days, when the Bruins were winning and they called them the Big Bad Bruins, I mean, that was when 6 guys could scrap with one, if you remember back before you got thrown out of the game or instigator or anything like that. So Brian Watson, who I played with in Pittsburgh there, he was an antagonist. In fact, Glenn Sather was a teammate then too. And between the two of them, they could get under everybody's skin. And so we had a few good brawls with Boston. And of course, there would be 4 or 5 of the Bruins trying to take the life out of Bugsy Watson or Glenn Sather. But there was, most of that stuff had already gone. I was in the WHA by the time the Broad Street Bullies come along. And but anything that I saw in person or partook in was in the Eastern League there. And it was awful.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I mean, I'm just listening. I'm thinking about some of the viewers too. Like, this is stuff you don't hear. You don't get this by watching the highlights. You don't get this by collecting cards. You only get this by hearing from an old school player like yourself, Joe. So
that's why I go to the shop every day, so we can have a conversation.
Well, it's truly a privilege to have you here tonight. And Travis, I want to get you more involved too, because I invited you on as well. But it's funny, when we were planning this, Travis said, you asked Dad 3 stories. That's going to fill up 3 hours, no problem. So, we've got our work cut out for us, but we'll get through it. We got lots of comments coming in. I wanted to bring Aaron. Aaron says, Jeremy, these guests are fired up. Good energy for a Saturday night. Thank you, Aaron. Brent Turman says, Joe, how do you think your best WHA team would have performed in the NHL? Well, I mean, you said it. You said it earlier.
I honestly believe that we would have been in the upper half of the league. There was always a rumor and a discussion about us playing Montreal when Montreal were in their prime there. I always said, well, Montreal might have been a little bit deeper than we were. So, but it would have been fun. It would have been nice. But I always say to people, I remember Scotty Bowman came to Winnipeg to speak at a fundraising dinner. And anybody that knows Scotty Bowman, I love the man. I think he's a hockey genius. But he wouldn't throw compliments around about anybody to anybody. But somebody asked him, about him coming to Winnipeg. He said, well, he came to scout Lars-Erik Sjoberg. Montreal wanted to get Sjoberg to play with and alongside Savard, Robinson, and Lapointe. And they wanted to get Shu there, and they thought if they got him, they had 4 defensemen that were the best in the world. Anyways, he was here. He watched us play. He went back to Montreal, and what's his name there in Montreal? There was a GM. Oh, geez, I got it. Pardon me?
Sam Pollock?
Yes, thank you. Sammy says, what kind of team they got? Scotty says, well, if they challenge us, I'd think twice. So I thought that was a sort of a nice way of saying they got a pretty good hockey team. Yeah, I think we would have been able to compete and certainly establish ourselves in the upper half of the National Hockey League back in those 75 to 78 years. There was those 3 years. That was a pretty special group of guys that played here.
Yeah. I was young in those days, but I was going to I was going to some of those games with my dad back in those early years, and I don't have real vivid memories, but I certainly remember the excitement and winning Avco Cups. So yeah, good times for sure. Fallow Five-Ball is enjoying the stories. Good to have you, Fallow Five-Ball. Aaron Rasmus wants to, and I thank you, Aaron, wants to remind everybody to hit the like button. So I'm going to take a second and say, if you're watching the video and you haven't yet subscribed to the Sports Cards Live channel on YouTube, please go ahead and do that if you don't mind. I'd appreciate it. If you've enjoyed the show so far, hit that thumbs up button. If you haven't enjoyed the show so far, hit the thumbs up button. All right. Frankie Stain says, thanks for this, Jeremy. It reminds me of Mickey Redmond talking about the good old days where players hated each other in his career in Detroit. That's cool. Now, Joe's already mentioned Mickey Redmond so far. Good to see you, Frankie. Terry says, I love this episode. So good to hear some of the amazing history of the game from someone who experienced it. I could listen to this all day, every day. There you go, Joe. There you go. Patty Black wants to know, Joe, do you still have any of your old masks?
I only wore one. I had one. I started wearing it the third year here in Winnipeg. And unfortunately, when I retired and left the Jets, they politely told me that they couldn't find any of my equipment. So my mask ended up being part of that I never retained, and don't know where it is till this day. But so no, I don't have any.
Okay, let's keep going because we got lots of comments coming through. So let's see what else we can get to. Canner Collects. This is a funny question. Who could drink the most beers between periods and still skate a good game? Joe, before you answer, Joe, did that, we hear stories about people would be drinking beers, they'd be smoking cigarettes on the bench or in the locker room between periods. Did this stuff really go on?
I never saw anybody drink a beer, but I saw guys have a cigarette.
Yeah.
So back in the day, I'd have a half a dozen teammates that, if you had to go to the bathroom, you had to get through the fog. But because that's where they went. They went and sat in the can and had a cigarette. But, you see pictures of guys after a game. Some of the guys from the 60s and 70s, you'll see them sitting in the dressing room there with half their gear on still and a smoke in their hand and a beer in the other. And that was it. It was no big deal. I mean, guys had a few beers after the game and in the dressing room. And I know they don't do it today. But it just we probably all should have done it more, and then we wouldn't have been in the bar till 3 o'clock in the morning.
Right. Peter says, when Joe talks about hard work, and I think about Tanev for the Jets, worked his tail off, got in front of every shot.
That's a great example, Peter. But we all love Tanev here in Winnipeg, and we're sorry to see him go, but that's exactly the type of guy, He's playing in the National Hockey League because of his work ethic, and that wears off, and it goes around. And speaking of great players, I mean, I said that's why we in Winnipeg here became as good as we did, is because of the influence that we had from the Europeans who went to practice to get better. And that brushed off on all the other guys. And you can talk to anybody from those teams that I'm talking about when they came over. And a lot of guys looked forward to going to practice, and especially, the Billy Lazukes and Lyle Moffats and Bobby Gindens of the world. Those guys would always be playing against Bobby Andersonoff in practice. Hey, man, if they didn't work their tail off, what was going to happen in a small scrimmage? They'd be in our end all night long. So, yeah, that's a great example.
Yeah, cool, good. Rob says, Joe, what was it like facing Bobby Hull's shot in practice, or did he hold back?
No, he didn't hold back, and neither did I. I had no fear of him, and many times I'd come home and I'd have a welt up here on my collarbone, and I'd show it to my wife, and she'd say, "Bobby," and I'd say, "Yep." Yeah, no, I used to enjoy practicing against him because hey, that's how you get better. Play against the best.
The one good thing with Bobby was he always knew where it was going, though. I remember talking to him one night, and he said he came down the wing, and I think Gumper was in net, and he let it go, and he knew it was going to hit him in the head, and he yelled as soon as he shot it because he knew every time he shot the puck where it was going, and sure enough, it clipped Gumper's ear and cut his ear. But that was the one thing with Bobby is he always knew where he was going to put it. So I think just watching in practice, you could tell that, okay, he's going to shoot it, but he's not going to shoot it at his head because he knows where he's going to put it. So,
yeah. And that one time against Gumper, he let out a warning call. Hey,
he knew he missed where he wanted to put it. So he yelled as soon as he let it go.
Move. I'm about to kill you. Get out of the way. It's nice of him. That was nice of him for sure. For sure. Top Shelf says, greetings from the bullpen. Greetings to you, Top Shelf. Welcome to the show. Going to see what else we got here. Here we go. Rob Demare. Travis, other than your dad, who do you think was the best goalie that had ever lived? And great question, Rob, because I had the same question for Joe, but I love it. We're going to start with you, Travis. Best goalie that ever lived besides the man sitting on your right.
That's hard. Obviously I'm not old enough to have watched a lot of the early ones like Plants and Sawchucks and stuff like that. But if you base it just on success, I mean, Patrick Waugh was awfully successful. I liked watching him play because I just liked his intensity. But to say he was the best, I don't know. But I just enjoyed watching him play because of just sort of what he brought to the game. Hextall was fun to watch too, though.
Yeah,
I like the way he played. Again, just because of the passion that they showed on the ice. But those are probably the two that I would pick.
Joe, let's move to you. And I asked Joe the same question when we were chatting the other night, and I gave him a break. I said, Joe, you don't have to come up with one guy. You can tell us who a few of them are because you've got the insights that a lot of us don't. So, your opinion, Joe, who are the goalies? Who's the greatest couple of all time? And then I also want to know current players. Who do you really like right now and recent?
Well, during the 70s, I mean, I really liked Bernie Perron's style. I thought Bernie was so consistent night in and night out. And on the other hand, if I had to try and throw a guy in there that I thought could win me a game tonight, I love Cheevers for that aspect. But so in the 70s, those two guys. I mean, in the 80s, to me, people are going to say, he played on one of the greatest teams of all time in the Oilers. But Grant Fuhr was perfect for that team. And all Grant Fuhr worried about was a W. This save percentage and goals against and everything. That's all, the topping on the cake. Grant Fuhr played to win. 10-9, 1-0. Didn't matter as long as he won. And that's why Edmonton were so successful is because, he'd come into Winnipeg. The shots, he'd get 45, 50 shots against them. The game might be 8-6, but I know Edmonton had the 8 every time.
Yeah.
So that's all that matters. And so I thought, during that time period, Fuhrer was exceptional. You going into the 90s, it's pretty hard to not talk about Patrick Waugh, but I think I mentioned to you Marty Brader was one of the best of all time. I mean, he just played the game the way it should be played. And of course, you get into the current situation. We're in love with our Connor Hellebuyck here in Winnipeg. I love his attitude. I love his demeanor. I love his approach to the game. I love his desire to try and become the best that he can be. And we're very fortunate we have him, because I still think that, like last year, he wins the Vezina Trophy. And when the season stopped because of COVID, we weren't in the playoffs. So when a guy can win the Vezina Trophy on a team that struggled or was fortunate to get in the playoff, the play-go-round there when they started up again, I think that speaks volumes about what type of goaltender he is. And of course, there's a lot of guys. As I mentioned, to say who was the best of all time. Well, growing up in Winnipeg and knowing that Terry Sawchuk's from Winnipeg, to me, one of the greatest that ever put on a pair of pads. So, but you go through the history of goaltenders, and Charlie Rayner, who I got to know, God bless him. Think he was the most valuable player in the league, playing on the Rangers, and I think they were in last place. What does that speak volumes about a goaltender? And so it's so hard to say, this guy or that guy. And like I say now, you talk about the save percentage and the goals against and so forth and so on. The statistics that are kept. And we got to remember that so many of us were self-taught goaltenders. We didn't have somebody watching us, then coming down to the next practice, and we're going over the game on the ice, and they watched how you played and how things are going good and bad and otherwise. You had one coach coaching the goalie, the defense, and the forwards, and that was it. And until video came in, and then let's go. So then one day we're in Buffalo, and Punch says, we're going to watch the video. And so Eddie Shack is my teammate, so Punch is all over Eddie because, look at this, look at that. Well, Eddie says, but look at the nice passes I made. So the next thing you know, you're laughing your head off, and we're supposed to be trying to get better as a team. But so, we have to remember that the guys prior to, like I say, all the analytics, all the coaches, all the video, all the ability to become better, all the guys that played prior to that, I call them self-made goaltenders, including myself. So you learned by watching the guy at the other end of the rink. You learned by your mistakes. You thought maybe somebody on the team could say to you, Joe, when you're playing well, you're on the edge of your crease. You're not sitting back in it. Simple things like that. So you had to pick up a little bit here, a little bit there, and try and become better. Whereas today, you've got a lot of help. So, I think the goaltending of today is special, but it's so different from the way I was taught to play the game. I always say Red Kelly would tear his hair out today, because I remember one night he came in the dressing room, he got down on his hands and knees in front of me in my stall, and he says, how in the son of a sea cook and bottle washer can you stop the puck when you're on your knees? I said, wouldn't you have fun today? Because they're never off their knees. So, you got to think of all the different changes that come in sport. And certainly the biggest change in hockey has been the way the goaltender plays the game. Yeah. And so how do you say, this guy played this way in a certain era. How would he play today? I always say players adapt. Athletes adapt. So if I was playing today, obviously I'm too small, because you got to be 6'10". But anyways, you would be taught to play a certain way, you would adapt.
Yeah.
And so when you say, oh,
best ever stuff.
Yeah, all the best ever stuff, it's too hard. All I say is the best players would adapt. They would be trained, they would be coached, they would be taught to adapt to the style that's required.
Okay, Joe, I want to ask you what I'm going to give you like 30 seconds to answer this next question. Dominic Hasek, how does he rank against Martin Brodeur and Patrick Waugh? More of the same era.
I saw Dominic Hasek stop more shots that I still don't know how than any goaltender I ever watched. He just never quit on anything ever.
Yeah.
So when you thought, oh, this guy's going to slide the puck in the net, and the next thing you know, he twisted himself around and flung an arm or threw a glove or something. He made more saves. I said, don't try and tell a kid to watch him play and to play like that, because nobody can. Nobody could. Nobody did. Dominic Hasek was one of the most unique goaltenders in the history of the game and one of the best.
All right. I love it. I love it. Thank you. Bless him Break says, this guy is an OG. I love it. Thank you. Bless him. Welcome to the show. Charles, let's see what Charles says. Mickey Redmond is one of the biggest what ifs in scoring history, 52 goals. Then in 74, Sam had a back injury that ended his career. What can you tell us about Mickey Redmond? Joe, you got 30 seconds. Mickey Redmond in 30 seconds.
You just said it. Mickey Redmond scored 52 goals. Back in the day, 50-goal scorers weren't something you would pick off a tree. So, talked about guys that could shoot the puck. Mickey could fire it pretty good. And he was a fun guy. I love playing with him.
Awesome. AM says, best goalies are Sawchuk and Plant. No argument. Nice. LP Hockey Card says, Joe, what is it like signing cards for a card company?
Well, I mean, it's a privilege. I think it's an honor to be able to sign anything. I get cards in the mail every week to sign and mail back to fans, and I just think it's an honor to be able to sign a card or sign. Obviously, you sign a couple of cards for a company. There's a couple of dollars involved for you, so it's not so bad. It's not a big deal. It's kind of neat when you see your card come out of a product, especially now, because obviously when I was playing, the kids weren't buying cards yet. My kids, and I didn't even have all my cards when we got into the business, and since then we've accumulated them. But it's kind of cool.
What was it like seeing your very first NHL card?
Well, I don't know. It didn't.
No
I didn't.
deal?
Pardon me?
No big deal.
No. I mean,
cards weren't a big deal.
Yeah. I wanted the bubble gum.
Yeah. Charles says Joe is an amazing guest, isn't he though? Thank you, Charles. Patty Black wants to say, I guess Joe doesn't recall his Pittsburgh mask. Probably didn't play with it for many games. Type in Bruins versus Penguins, October 18th, 1969 on YouTube, and you can see Joe playing for the Pittsburgh Penguins. That's pretty cool, Patty. Thanks for pointing that out for everybody.
Let me expand on that. Red Kelly was coaching, and he wouldn't let me play unless I wore a mask. And so I only played a few games, and then I was sent down to Baltimore in the American League. And, of course, when I went to Baltimore, I played without a mask, and he was funny like that. Red, he had his ways, and he wanted me to wear a mask. So yes, we have seen it. The equipment guy there in Pittsburgh now, Dana Hines is he's writing a book about all the masks that the all the goalies wore in Pittsburgh, and so him and Travis have done a lot of texting back and forth, and he keeps sending us different pictures, not with my mask on, but different pictures of me. And so
you sent us that video.
He said, here's Joe playing with a mask on.
That's awesome. That's awesome. All right, a couple more comments. We'll go through. Davey Snep says, Grant Fuhr was fun to watch. Sure was. AM asks about Hasek, which I ended up getting to since that comment came up. So we're thinking alike, AM. Paul says, LOL, my favorite goalie I played with had a 10 goal guarantee. If we scored 10, there was no way he was letting in more than 9. I love it. I love it. AM says, Brodeur can't compare to vintage goalies. Game changed too much. I think that's what Joe is trying to say. Rob Demare says, great point on Hellebuck. Joe, I like St. Patrick too, Travis. You and I are from the same era. Blair Warb, welcome to the show. Great show, Jeremy. Joe, you're the best. If in Winnipeg, his card store is a must. Appreciate the comments, Blair. And Bobby Burrell, vintage hockey expert, says, Joe and Travis, what is your favorite vintage card or collectible? Travis, why don't you jump in on this one first?
I always liked the 68, 69 set. I don't know whether that's because I was
Why
dad's
would that be?
I honestly don't collect a whole lot. But if I had to pick one card, it would probably be the 68, 69 set. Plus, I was born in 68, so that doesn't hurt either.
That makes sense. How about you, Joe?
Well, I like the old Parkies. Not necessarily going back to the early 50s ones because they're pretty primitive if you really think about it. But having said that, any chance that I get to find a beautiful copy of one is always thrilling for me. But I like the later 50s, early 60s Parkies. I think there's some beautiful sets in there, and I guess maybe I'm showing my age when I talk about what would I enjoy collecting. Well, I've always said that I'd be going back into those early years of the cards because obviously finding some pretty nice copies of any years or any players is difficult, but I think that the true value in cards would be finding near mint to mint copies of Richard or Howe or Beliveau or Boom Boom or Plant or Sawchuk or Howe or any of them. You find nice copies of those guys in the Parky sets. I think you've got. People say, what should I invest in? Well, I always say what you like and what you can afford. But I like the old stuff. I really do. I mean, obviously the new product, the cards are pretty amazing, and the thought process that goes into trying to change them up year after year is pretty difficult, I'm sure. But not saying that the cards aren't nice anymore, but there's something about, I guess maybe because as a kid I had them in my pocket.
Yeah, exactly. I want to just mention to everybody, so this coming Thursday night, there's a Heritage Auctions is happening. There's a PSA 10 Wayne Gretzky O-Pee-Chee rookie card that's going to sell, and a PSA 10 Topps Wayne Gretzky rookie card they're going to sell. Currently, the O-Pee-Chee is at like $620,000 US, and the Topps is, I believe, around 240 or 290, whichever it is.
Yeah.
What's that?
I think it is 290. Yeah.
290 for the Topps card. So I'm going to be doing a special episode next Friday, and by then these auctions should be over. They're going to end in the middle of the night, like late Thursday, early Friday morning. We're going to do a special episode Thursday night. Bobby Burrell, whose comment is on the screen, will be joining me, as well as Sean Chalk. Sean is the preeminent Wayne Gretzky collector in the world, and these guys are going to be on with me next Friday. Special episode to kind of break down the sales of these cards. I'm hoping they both surpass $1 million, but we will see. So I just want to let everybody know, if you aren't kind of a member of the Sports Cards Live Facebook group, where I post who's going to be on the show and what we're going to be talking about, I'll let you know now. And I'll mention again, subscribe to the channel if you haven't yet. I'd appreciate it. Hit the thumbs up button and all that great stuff. Back to comments. Charles says, Pelle Lindbergh is one of the biggest what ifs ever. I think he could have been amazing. That was a tragedy for sure. AM says Datsuk and Hasek on the ice at the same time equals very exciting hockey game, no doubt. Royals 417 says, great show tonight. If the border was open, I'd make the 12-hour drive tomorrow. Hopefully one day soon. That's awesome, Royals. Appreciate that. Jay Servianto says, I'm going to buy your card, Joe. I love it. AM says, Joe Daley currently has 200 items for sale on eBay. Now, AM, is that Joe Daley items or is that Joe Daley's eBay account where they sell on eBay because they also are in the business?
I don't have that many listed.
Those are Joe Daley items that are on eBay. And my card, we're going to do I do a personal collection card of the day segment at the end of the episode. You can all guess what I'm going to be showing, but we'll show it off a little bit later. Let's see. Charles says, were there any WHA legends that don't get talked about tonight? Like the hyper Mark Napier, Mike Lee. Yeah, we've covered a lot of the guys from the WHA, which has been a lot of fun, as Joe definitely has that old those old references to refer to. Rob Demare says, oh yeah, lots of value in the old Parkies, Joe. Joe did appear in the Game's History of Hockey, a beautiful set from 2012-13, 2013-14 in the game Superlative First 6. Nice cards also. Thank you, AM. Rondell says, I'm with you, Travis. The 68 set is my favorite, but boy, oh boy, is it hard to find them well-centered. Took me forever to find a nice Bobby Orr. No doubt. That was the first year that O-Pee-Chee came back after being gone since the early 40s.
Yeah.
And those cards are Bernie Parent. You share your rookie year in terms of card sets, Joe, with one of your favorites, Bernie Parent.
Yeah.
His card's worth a bit more than yours, though, Joe.
Yeah, I know. I don't know why we played the same position.
Yeah. But it is notoriously the hardest Hall of Famer rookie card to find centered. Your card, I've got, well, I'll show them shortly, but they're actually pretty nicely centered. But you're right, Rondell. There's no doubt about that. Rob says Gretzky passing 1 million could happen. Condition sensitive card. No doubt. That is going to be an exciting week for hockey cards with those Gretzky cards that are going to sell. They've already broken the records for the tops and the O-Pee-Chee version. It will definitely be exciting to see what happens with them. So guys, we are buzzing through the evening here. I told you guys, these shows go by quicker than you can think. And when you got Joe telling all these stories, I mean, man, this has gone by super fast for me. So I'm going to just check out my notes here very quickly, make sure we've covered everything that I wanted to cover. Like we were going to talk, I wanted to take a minute, guys, and definitely talk about Dale Hawerchuk, recently deceased, maybe the best Winnipeg Jet of all time. Between him, Teemu Selanne, Bobby Hull, Joe Daley. I mean, these are the guys. What did Dale Hawerchuk? What was it? I collected Dale Hawerchuk cards for a long time. I still add the odd one every so often. What from your guys' perspective, what did Dale Hawerchuk mean to hockey in Winnipeg, and how did Winnipeg respond when he recently fell ill and passed away earlier this year? Travis, you want to go?
Well, like for me, obviously, he was one of the superstars that I was able to watch and remember, and I just think he, carried himself so well. You never heard a bad thing about him. I think he might have been one of the most underrated players of the time, because there was somebody in Edmonton that kept winning the scoring race. But Dale, you could argue he was arguably the best passer of his time. And I got to meet him a number of times and spend some time with him, and he was just a genuine guy. Like, I don't know if he even knew how good he was or how much he meant to this city. He certainly loved Manitoba. I'll give him that, and he even said that towards the end, how much he appreciated Manitoba and everything. And I just thought he was, I don't want to say legitimize the Winnipeg NHL team, but it's almost that fact, because they started off so bad the first couple of years in the NHL. And then when he came along, it almost gave them, that spark to be a legitimate NHL team. And he was sure fun to watch. And like I said, fun to spend time with after he retired even. And I certainly enjoyed the conversations I had with him. And part of me still says I still can't believe he's gone. So,
yeah, he very young when he recently passed away in his 50s, I believe.
Yeah,
that was definitely tragic, and one of my favorite players of all time. And it's one of those things I haven't even really thought about it too much, because it's just it represents my youth to a large degree. I mean, Dale Hawerchuk was the main man when I between the between the age of, 10 years old when he was drafted by the Jets up until up until I was a 25-year-old type of thing. He was instrumental in being a youngster growing up in Winnipeg. And, his rookie year, the 82-83 O-Pee-Chee packs were some of the first ones that I was opening on a regular basis, looking for that card. And so I just wanted to spend some time, out of respect for him, to discuss him with you guys a little bit. Joe, what do you have to say about Dale and his impact on the city and his untimely passing?
Well, I mean, I don't have to tell you, you're a Winnipegger. I mean, we take a lot of things sort of with a grain of salt here, and I think that was probably the way Dale got treated over the years. I don't think there's any question the talent level that he had. I mean, other than Wayne in the West, and even when Mario come along, I mean, Dale to me was top 4 or 5 players in the game, and yet, Winnipeggers kind of just took it for granted that, hey, Dale's a Jet, and I mean, every year 100+ points for 10 years in a row, led his team in scoring every year from the rookie season on. And then, like Travis said, as a person, so down to earth, humble. I don't think he felt that he should be treated any differently than the fourth line guy, and that's what you want as a teammate. You want that teammate that's the best player on the team to feel like he's equal to everybody else on the team, and I think that's the way Dale was. I mean, he was a leader. He made his line mates way better players, and that's, to me, what stardom is all about, is when you can make the players and people around you better, then I think you deserve the accolades, and I think that's the way Dale played the game. And yeah, it hurt to lose him, and I know what he meant to the Jets organization today, having the ability to see a number of the young players in the league he was coaching in, and then his relationship with Mark Scheifele, and then his relationship with Mark Chipman here. I know Mark took it really, really hard when Dale passed, and but you know what? He'll never be forgotten in this city, and it's just sad that he's not with us any longer.
Yeah. Okay. Well said. Thank you for that, Joe. All right. Lots of more comments coming in. So we're gonna get through some of these. AM says Howardchuk had a nickname, Mini Gretzky. We knew him as Ducky. We knew him very well as Ducky. Dave Kaplan said Howardchuk set an assist record. I think AM jumps in saying 57. Yeah. Rob says, yeah, Jeremy, all of us. You're right. I forget. I don't know what that's in reference to. Sorry about that, Rob, but that's only 3 minutes ago. So it's something not too long ago. It'll come to me. Thank you, Rob. Tiger says, how much were PSA 10 Gretzky's, Tops, and O-Pee-Chee 2 years ago? I can tell you, Tiger, there's only 2 of each in existence, and the last O-Pee-Chee sold for $460,000 US or $465, and the Tops, I don't even know what that last sold for. So the records are already broken, and we'll see where they end. Very interesting stuff. Top Shelf says Dale was awesome. He's the reason I got into autographs. First star I've ever met. That's cool to hear. Davey, I agree with you here. Davey Snaps should have been named to the NHL Top 100, and that's just the way Winnipeg is treated in general from people outside of Winnipeg, it seems. They kind of forget about Winnipeg, and I'm with you there. That was disappointing. That made that whole list bunk in my mind. Dale, I met Dale twice. He was awesome with the fans. Yep, Dale was awesome. I met him a couple times myself growing up, and what a guy. I would exclude a few guys off that list. Yeah, where Dale could sit in for. You'd exclude Pronger and Denny Savard. Arguments for sure. I want to go back up to a comment, though, that we had from Chris West. We got to talk a little bit about the hobby itself here. So Chris says, what is each of your favorite hobby innovation? Anything that went away that you wish would come back? Who wants to take this first? Anything come to mind? Something you really like about, because I did want to talk a bit about today's products versus the products of the 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s. Is there anything today that you think is really neat, really cool?
Well, I still feel like there needs to be a little bit more for the entry-level kids. I always say that if you collect it as a kid, you'll probably collect as an adult. If you never collected as a kid, it's hard to turn a 40 or 50-year-old guy into a card collector. So I know that the products that are out there right now are beautiful, and even the entry-level product that Upper Deck produces for the hobby, especially in hockey, which is their strong point. They're nice. They're nice, but the prices are getting to the point where it's going to be tough. I mean, Travis always said, "Dad, that little kid standing on the other side of the counter with $5 in his hand is as important as the guy standing beside him that's going to buy that $1,500 Bobby Hull set." And we've tried to make sure that every kid that comes in the store is treated equally, along with the big spenders. So it's just that I think I'm seeing less and less of that young kid in the store than we used to see, and I'd like to be able to bring more of those kids into the fold. So whether that's part of the evolution of life and existence, whereby prices on everything go sky high, and or whether something can be done to. And yet, on the other hand, the kids are not stupid. They can get on their computer or iPad or whatever. They know what package is giving out the valuable card and which package is giving out the less valuable card, and so as much as I'd like to have a couple more entry-level products, the kids know that not much is coming out of those packages or boxes. So I want to have the expensive stuff. Well, it's hard for a single mom or dad to come in and say, "Okay, you can have that $150 box."
Yeah.
Whereas when you were buying your 82 O-Peachy, it was $15 a box and about 20 cents a pack. So it was easier, even though the money was different back then. It was still easier for the kids to get involved. And I remember when we got started, I mean, the store was full of kids, and now I would say that more than 50% of our customer is of the young adult or older adult.
Yeah, no doubt. And there's some comments that come up that address that as well. But let's go to Davey's question. I love it. He says, "Are there any current Jets that will attract a crowd in Winnipeg 20 years from now if they return to the city like Dale or Timu have done?" I mean, Mark Scheifele, no? I mean, Mark Scheifele.
Yeah.
Sorry, Trav, say again?
I don't know if any of them have been here long enough yet.
What about Scheifele?
Scheifele might. I think Dale and Timu are so attractive to fans, not only because they were, good people, but they accomplished so much. Now, not saying that any of the current guys won't, but Scheifele might be a good example of somebody who plays here for 15 years and sets scoring records and whatnot. That could be certainly a guy. If Hellebuck continues to do what he's done, I mean, obviously we're a little partial to goalies around our parts, but we had him in the store for a signing, and he was by far the biggest crowd we've had for a current guy. Now, whether that would hold true down the road, I'm going to guess it's probably based on the success he has here more than anything.
Yeah. Okay. Well said.
Let's remember that back in our day, the access that the fan had to us was a lot simpler, easier than it is today.
Yeah.
We'd come out of the dressing room after a game, and there'd be a lineup of people waiting for an autograph so they could talk to you. You'd sign the autograph. people go to a game today, the players are underneath, they're parking underneath, there's no access to them. You can't even say hi to them. So I think a lot of those things that I mentioned pertain to the fact that
makes an attachment to the player.
The attachment to individual players and people is different. It's different today because like Travis says, we've experienced it because we've had the opportunity to bring a number of the boys into the store for a signing. Well, the store fills up and they're waiting outside because, as you know, we're not big, but just the opportunity to come and interact with that player is so important to the fan. And they've mentioned it here in Winnipeg many times that's what's missing, they say, that interaction between the fan and the player. And I don't know what it's like in other cities for fans being able to have access to the players. But certainly, I mean, if you go back to the Jets of the 90s, they'd have their carnival where they'd be there and their wives would be there and the fans would be there. And so a lot more interaction, which also develops that. I love that guy. I love that guy. I want to see him. If he comes back 20 years from now, I want to go and say hi to him. And that happens with certainly with Timo and did with Dale and of course it can't now. But that I think is one of the big reasons that in answer to your question, it's hard to say.
Yeah. All right. Okay. So we're running out of time here, guys. I'm going to whip through a few of these comments. I like this. LP says, Joe treats me with so much respect. Very much appreciated. That's awesome, LP. Charles says, I agree, Joe. Coming from a kid, I know so many kids across Canada that would be collecting cards if they were cheaper. Really a shame how many will not be a part of the hobby due to that. I would direct them to Tim Hortons. Tim Hortons has a nice program going on where you can actually get entry-level cards, and there are some pretty cool cards in those packs too. So I think there are options out there. We just have to, maybe just be a little open-minded towards the fact that you may not get the, the Connor McDavid autograph patch out of 99 sort of thing. AM says, card collecting is like a game. It's a business. We are the last generation of collectors with less shows and now COVID interfering. I hope that's not true, but let's keep on going. Top shelf. Joe, what do you think of how autographs have changed over the years? You have a beautiful signature. I'm going to show one shortly. You can read every letter, but today's kids, it's an initial pretty much. Thank you for the comment, Top Shelf. We're going to keep on going though. AM, thank goodness for internet and sports cards live. Thanks, Jeremy. Thank you, AM. That's enough. I was going to say, Joe, when you were talking about the fact that you don't have the contact with the players anymore, maybe that's where sports cards come into play a little bit. They give us a bit of a feeling of having something of the players, even though it's not a one-to-one relationship. Charles says sometimes things from the past are better, like card prices and how many kids were involved in the hobby and able to get those packs. Davey says Timu wasn't here long. I responded to that by saying he didn't need to be there long. His impact was huge. He became my favorite athlete of all time very quickly. If you see over my shoulder right there, that's the new Boss VHS tape right there that I kept from the old days. AM says, been to Maple Leaf Garden, what an arena. Don't like the new stadiums, all market and money. Glad to have lived and benefit from old-time hockey. Chris, it's the same in San Jose as Winnipeg, Joe. Some of the players stop and sign for fans, but most don't. Rob, Jeremy, hit all the points on this interview. Great work. Thank you, Rob. That is very nice to hear. I'm glad we were able to. I'm looking at my notes. I got through everything I wanted to, so I'm happy to hear that you feel the same way, Rob Demare. Too late for more show. What there's no game on. Too late for more show. What there's no game on. Not sure what you're talking about, AM, but thank you for the comment. Terry says, this was an honor. Joe has a new fan for life. Thank you, Jeremy, Joe, and Travis. You are welcome, Terry. Great to have you as always. Great. Oh, I see. Just kidding. Great, Joe. Thank you, AM. You've been very interactive tonight. Really appreciate it. Okay, guys, before we wrap up, I'm going to do what I call my PC card of the day. I throw that up there. I show a couple cards, 1 or 2 or 3 cards from my collection that relate to my guest or guests for the evening. So this was an easy one, guys. This is an easy one. First, I'm going to show you. This is my 1968 OPG number 188 Joe Daley rookie card in a PSA 8 holder. So you can see this is centered. This is Joe's rookie card. Look at him there. Look at that handsome young man.
Haven't changed a bit.
No, not at all. Looks a bit like Travis even. But what a great card. I love this year, like we've talked about. This is such a cool year. So vintage, 1968 OPG, Joe Daley, rookie card. Love it. And then I also have this copy, Joe. I brought this copy into you many years ago now, 10, 15 years ago, to get your autograph on it. I then sent it off to put it with my PSA DNA'd certified autograph rookie collection. Obviously, I knew it was real. I didn't need anyone to tell me, but I wanted it to be with the rest of the cards in my collection. And as was mentioned earlier, look at that autograph, guys. Look at Joe Daley's autograph. You just don't see that. And to everybody listening on podcasts later on, I'm showing you how beautiful Joe Daley's rookie card is. If you want to see it, you're going to have to watch the video on YouTube. But what a signature, Joe. Love the card. And it's nicely centered as well.
Yeah, that's tough.
So those are my PC cards of the day. So thanks everybody for that. I'm going to run through a few more. Okay, it's now time for parting comments. I'm going to run through those guys. I'll let you say some final words, Joe and Travis. I will say right now, it's been a honor, a privilege, a joy to have you guys on the show. This is episode 67. So, I mean, it's a long time coming for me. You know how I feel about you guys. I've known you to feel like my whole lives. I've kept in touch with you over the years. I've lived outside of Winnipeg for almost 20 years now. I keep in touch. I come see you. That'll continue as the years continue to go by. I'll be by the shop for sure. So I want to thank you guys for coming on. Everybody watching, if you're not subscribed to the YouTube channel, please do so. If you've enjoyed the show tonight, hit the thumbs up button. Even if you haven't enjoyed the show tonight, still hit that thumbs up button. I greatly appreciate it. We're going to go through the final comments, final words from these guys, and then the show is over. And I remind everybody in 28 minutes or so, I'll be back for the after hours show. Yes, we're going to bang off about 3.5 hours of hobby content tonight. I'll be back with someone I grew up with in Winnipeg, David Kaplan, who, again, grew up with him when we were youngsters. I haven't seen much of him for probably 30 years, if at all, but we've reconnected through the hobby. He's going to join me. That should be fun. And he actually, guys, he mentioned to me, he says he has memories of going into Joe Daley sports cards and seeing me standing behind the counter. And I said, it's possible I made myself at home there in the late 80s, early 90s. I never worked. He thought I worked there. I never worked there, but I hung out there quite a bit. And at some point, I think I got that comfortable where I would just walk behind the counter and look at cards and hang out. So maybe give you guys a hand even. All right. Let's see what we got here for final comments. LP says, beautiful card. Thank you so much. Jace Oervy says, innovation comeback. Cooperalls. Hey, you never know. You never know. Davey, this has been great. The dailies are great people. We'll see you soon. Wonderful comment. Thank you, Davey. Travis has the same haircut as Joe's rookie card. They don't have many options, these daily men, do they? Hey, who might have talked? Who might have talked? Thank you, Tiger. Beautiful RC. Let's hope he looks like his dad. Fantastic signature. It sure is. Karen Asmunson, welcome to the show. It's always great to stop in at Joe Daley's shop. Legion Italia gives us 7 rounds of applause. Thank you, Legion. Always an honor to have you watching. LP says, hopefully I can get a box from you for Christmas, Joe. Can't wait to stop back in. From Luke. Thank you, Luke. Paul, good show again. Thank you, Paul. AM, just a card store rat. Isn't it great? Sure is. Dave Kaplan says, maybe Travis was on a break when I was there helping Joe. Filling in for you, Travis. I'll send you my invoice this much later. All right. So that is it, guys. Travis, Joe, again, thank you for joining me, taking the time tonight, taking the time the other night to meet up with me. Parting comments from you to the crowd, and we're gonna end the show.
Well, I want to thank you, Jeremy, for allowing us to enjoy an evening like this, talking about something that I think both of us are very passionate about, and that's the industry itself. And I sure hope all your viewers enjoyed us. I know, you're not going to always hit a home run with everybody, but we certainly try. We make our place a comfort zone for everybody and anybody. Everybody's welcome. Everybody will get a hi, hello when they walk in the door, and hopefully we tell some more stories. So I want to just express to the fans and to the collectors that it's a great hobby, and I think we have to keep that fact in it. It's a hobby. It's a lot of fun. Yeah, it's become somewhat expensive to a great degree, but I've always said for over 30 years, buy what you like and what you can afford, and hopefully we'll see many of the viewers that participated tonight. I hope they drop in and remind us that they saw this. And thank you.
I hope they do too. Don't forget to I got on the ticker right now, everybody. There's the website for Joe Daley's. Just go to joedailey.com. You'll find their address, their store hours, all that kind of stuff. Follow them on Twitter and Instagram at Joe Daley Sports. Travis, it's great. It's been great having you too. I know it's just nice to see you, buddy. Nice to see you. Anything from you? And then we're going to end this thing.
No, I just thank you. It's been fun. I get the privilege of hearing these stories every day, so it never gets old for me. And if you want to hear more stories, come by. Joe's always happy to talk. So
we learned that tonight for sure. We're at the 2 hour, 6 minute mark. The show, we did not have trouble filling in the couple hours here, guys. Bobby Burrell says, love the stories. Great show. Thanks, guys. Thank you, Bobby. Chris Bennett says, great show. Really fun watching Joe and Travis. All right, guys. Again, to everybody watching, thank you so much. This has been a lot of fun. Really special episode for me personally to have these guys join. And it's been fun to reminisce about the Winnipeg Jets, all eras of the Jets, the hobby, all eras of the hobby, guys. So thanks, everybody, for tuning in. The Card Collector says hi at the very end. Welcome to the show. And we are done. Joe and Travis, wait right there 1 second. And everybody else, we'll see you back up here in 23 minutes if you're going to watch After Hours on the same YouTube channel. Thank you, everybody, and good night.